your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News Weekend Edition with Jeanette Roche.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. The death of a 32-year-old Lethbridge man is being called a homicide. RCMP say around 10:19 a.m. last Saturday, they responded to a call about blood being reported on the Healy Bridge located on Highway 511 near Willow Creek. It was reported that there was a body below down by the river. Fort Macleod RCMP and Blood Tribe Police attended and located the dead man. An autopsy was completed on Tuesday, and the death has been deemed a murder. The deceased has been identified as a 32-year-old resident of Lethbridge. Alberta RCMP Major Crimes continue their investigation and are requesting the public's assistance. They are asking for any dash cam video from Highway 511 near the Healy Bridge between Highway 509 and Highway 2 on March 25th between the hours of 3 a.m. and 9 a.m. The family of Tia Lynn Blood will have to wait a few more days to hear the conclusion of the court hearing for Hunter Frank, who faces numerous charges related to her death. At the conclusion of the case, Blood's family plans to provide a brief statement to the media outside the courthouse, read by Tia's youngest sister, Cara Blood. Blood's family says they've been through a stressful ordeal since she was discovered missing in October of 2022, and the court hearing has added an emotional toll on them. Hunter Frank's hearing was supposed to be Friday, March 31st, but it was adjourned until April 4th. He faces charges of manslaughter and trafficking of a controlled substance, as well as offering an indignity to human remains, and 2 counts of theft under $5,000. Tia leaves behind her husband and 2 young children. Police in Calgary are investigating the shooting death of a teenage girl in the city's northeast Martindale neighborhood. Police say they responded to reports of shots being fired in an alley early Tuesday morning. When they arrived, they found the teen dead at the scene around 1:30 a.m. Police say further details will be released once the next of kin has been notified and an autopsy is completed. The Alberta government announced that Budget 2023 will see an increase of $27 million to help fight crime. Officials say the funding will be used to hire more sheriffs and provide new tools to fight rural crime. Public Safety Minister Mike Ellis says the new sheriff's team will assist RCMP who need investigative support.
The Alberta Sheriffs have an existing surveillance unit that will work with Alberta law enforcement response teams regarding serious and organized crime investigations. The RCMP has its own surveillance capacity as well, but like the sheriff teams attached to Alert, it's focused mainly on major investigations. These new sheriff teams will fill a gap by helping the RCMP detachments with local investigations that the current model does not account for.
Many in the province mourned the tragic shooting deaths of 2 Edmonton police officers, Constable Travis Jordan and Brett Ryan. For some who attended the funeral at Rogers Place in Edmonton last Monday, it really hit close to home.
We're here to support all of the first responders, but in particular our son, who is a police officer with Calgary Police Services. It is so sad. We feel so sad, especially for the family of the 2 officers, but that extends out to the whole first responder family nationwide. And as I said, in particular, our son is an officer with Calgary Police Service, so we have a special connection for him too.
It's probably the worst nightmare families could experience, so our hearts are with the families, and the EPS family, and all the families across it, so it's very tragic.
In addition, a bus with over 30 members of Lethbridge Police Service, Lethbridge Fire Department, and Alberta Sheriffs also headed to Edmonton last Monday to take part in the March and Regimental Funeral Service. Lethbridge Police Association President Jay McMillan says it's important to show support to the families of the slain officers, along with their brothers and sisters in blue.
You can't support it enough. We just can't. I think the reason that so many people are interested and so many people are invested is because every time it happens, it hits so incredibly close to home. Because any member on any given day are subject to the same dangers that these 2 young men were, and everyone in our families knows that as well. So it's devastating when it does happen, and it's a little bit too familiar.
McMillan adds that a regimental funeral such as this will generally draw law enforcement from across North America. Coming up, a leaked video of the premier and a viral video that cost a candidate the chance at an election. That's all coming up. Keep it right here. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith went on the attack of the CBC this week, saying that she's not happy the public broadcaster released a story on the allegations of interference. It stems from a conversation she had with Calgary street preacher Arthur Pulowski, who faces multiple charges and has spoken out against the lockdowns during the COVID-19 pandemic. Smith says she did have her staff work with the Ministry of Justice to determine if anything could be done to grant amnesty for those charged with non-violent, non-firearms COVID-related charges. A leaked video includes a portion of the conversation between Premier Smith and Arthur Pulowski.
We're in a bit of a bind because of what happened with Jody Wilson-Raybould and the Prime Minister, because what we discovered in how our justice system works is they don't really have the power of clemency the way a U.S. president or a governor in the United States has. It's not quite the way our system works. Once the process is underway, I can ask our prosecutors, is there a reasonable likelihood of conviction? And is it in the public interest? And I assure you, I have asked them that almost weekly ever since I got started here. There have been a number of cases that have been abandoned at the last minute as they've gone through that assessment. And I'm very hopeful that that will be the case for more cases.
In a statement, Premier Smith has said, "At no time have I spoken with anyone from the Alberta Crown Prosecution Service, nor to my knowledge have any of my office's staff. Allegations to the contrary are defamatory and will be dealt with accordingly." The Alberta NDP says the conversation that took place between Premier Smith and Arthur Pulowski is very concerning.
Certainly, it's a very concerning conversation. For anyone accused of criminal charges, getting face time with Premier at all is extraordinary, unheard of.
Meantime, Arthur Pulowski has been removed as leader of the Independence Party of Alberta. In a statement released on Facebook, party president Dan Dugan had this to say, quote, "The Independence Party of Alberta has a party platform and policies that reflect the hope of Albertans as an independent nation. Art Pulowski has not reflected this vision in a way that properly aligns with what the party and our platform need to convey and communicate to Albertans," end quote. In other news, a viral video saw the end of a UCP candidate's campaign 2 weeks after she was nominated. UCP Lethbridge West candidate Tori Tanner resigned following a video on social media where she claimed that teachers in Alberta were introducing children to pornography and helping them change their gender identity. As Angela Stewart explains, reaction to the video and her resignation has been quite strong.
Announcing her formal resignation from the UCP Thursday, Lethbridge West candidate Tori Tanner is stepping down, stemming from claims she made in this video posted to social media.
We as parents are in a unique position to protect the innocence of our children. Yet alarmingly, we are seeing increasing instances where kids, even those attending kindergarten, are being exposed to pornographic materials, or worse yet, having teachers help them change their gender identity.
Tanner was vying for a seat in the Alberta legislature to represent Lethbridge. A statement from Tanner reads, "During the nomination process, I made a video that at its core spoke to my commitment to protecting children. However, it's clear that my choice of words have distracted not only from the issue I was trying to discuss, but are being used by my political opponents to hurt our chances of winning across the province." Tanner's comments on the video were immediately called out by many, including from the Alberta Teachers Association, saying the video was spreading misinformation.
We should be talking about funding, curriculum, class size, the composition and the needs of our students, especially after the pandemic. But here we're having a conversation about some lies that don't have proof from a candidate from the UCP.
Shannon Phillips, the current MLA for Lethbridge West, says Tanner's comments were blatant lies and do not reflect the community of Lethbridge.
It is the right thing to do that she stepped back. Certainly, she needs to learn a little bit more about this community. Maybe actually talk to some teachers and other educators in this city to find out the great work that they're doing every day.
Sociology professor with the University of Lethbridge, Trevor Harrison, says Tanner's resignation is no surprise, but that her comments might have a contagion effect on the rest of the party moving forward.
The biggest problem coming out of this was that the very real chance that kind of a contagion effect that other candidates in other places would be labeled much the same.
Premier Danielle Smith says she will be working with the local constituency and the party to appoint a replacement in the near future. For Bridge City News, I'm Angela Stewart.
We need to take a quick break, but when we return, the national carbon tax is rising, leaving some wishing it were just an April Fool's Day joke. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, it's no April Fool's Day joke. The national carbon tax rises on Saturday, April 1st in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, meaning that we'll all have to pay a bit more to fill our gas tanks and heat our homes. The Trudeau government says, however, that it's also increasing the amount of the carbon price rebate checks issued to families to help offset the impact on family budgets. The House of Commons has passed a Conservative MP's private members bill that would exempt farmers from paying for some emissions of natural gas and propane under the federal carbon pricing scheme. The activities include drying grain, preparing feed, irrigating, and heating barns. Farmers have been facing rising production costs and say the bill will now head to the Senate, which gives them critical financial relief. The recently released federal budget called the Made in Canada Plan will see $43 billion in new spending over the next 6 years. The three main priorities will be healthcare, dental affordability, and a clean economy. Meanwhile, the federal debt is close to $1.2 trillion. Alberta Finance Minister Travis Toews reacted to the federal budget. In a statement, Toews said, quote, "We are concerned by the level of spending and lack of fiscal responsibility exhibited in this budget and its contribution to the country's already worrisome debt levels. This is a budget that will encumber Canadians and Albertans with a doubling of debt servicing costs over the course of the fiscal plan. We are disappointed that the federal government did not include a path to balance," end quote. To chat about the recently tabled federal budget in more detail and what it means for Canadians is the federal director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, Franco Terrazzano, who joined Hal Roberts from Ottawa.
Franco, what were your thoughts of Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland's budget?
Bottom line, this is a bad budget for taxpayers. I mean, this budget is giving taxpayers big deficits, more money wasted on interest charges, and higher taxes. I mean, Budget 2023 makes one thing clear. This government does not care about fiscal restraint, and it does not care about helping taxpayers.
Critics of the Trudeau government say there does not appear to be a path forward to achieving a balanced budget. How will this really impact the average Canadian taxpayer?
Well, in a couple ways. I mean, number one, taxes are going up just in a few days. Alcohol taxes, they're still going up. And then, of course, you've got that carbon tax, which is going to make it more expensive every time you go to the pumps. It's going to make it more expensive to keep your home warm. And it's also going to increase grocery prices as well. You know, the carbon tax will cost the average family anywhere between $402 all the way up to $847 this year, even after the rebates.
Bars, restaurants, and breweries across Canada are set to also feel the pinch on April 1st. The federal government announced the biggest increase to the alcohol excise tax in 40 years. It's going up by 6.3%. Experts say this tax will have a huge impact on those who enjoy a drink and the companies that provide them. BCN's Micah Quinn has the details.
They are really struggling, and beer is their profit driver. So if they have to pay more for beer, they're in a real pickle.
When Canadians make their next trip to the liquor store, a restaurant, or a bar on April 1st, they can expect to pay just a little bit more. CJ Healy, the president of Beer Canada, says this tax will hurt the alcohol industry in Alberta and across Canada moving forward.
It will be really a devastating impact to, as you say, not just brewers, but barley farmers who rely on brewers to buy their product, and obviously the hospitality sector, who's just been really struggling to recover from the pandemic.
Franco Terrazzano, the federal director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, told us this alcohol tax increase is coming at a bad time for our country.
Canadians are already paying an arm and a leg every time you go to the liquor store or the pub. You pay about half of the price of beer in tax, 65% of a bottle of wine in tax, and about 3/4 plus of your favorite vodka, whiskey, or rum in tax.
Numbers from the Canada Revenue Agency say on a liter of wine, the excise duty rate is increasing a little over 4 cents. For a 750 milliliter bottle of wine, the increase would be closer to 3 cents. The Canadian Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance, Randy Boissonneau, outlined what the figures would look like for a can of beer.
What we're actually talking about, Mr. Speaker, is less than 1 cent per can of beer. That's what the federal amount is.
According to a recent survey by Restaurants Canada, only around half of licensed restaurants in our country are operating at or below profitability levels. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
After the break, battle lines are being drawn in Alberta as an election is just around the corner. That's next. Keep it right here. With an Alberta election just around the corner, some may have given up hope in politics, whether it's apathy or cynicism. But one group with a passion for Alberta is called Alberta Proud. Their executive director sat down with Hal Roberts this week to share the hope that they have for the province. Have a look.
Many people say they've lost trust in our politicians altogether, Lindsay. Can you talk about why this next provincial election is so vital for people to get out and vote?
I know we always say that every election is about change, but I cannot stress enough to the viewers of this that this is an incredibly critical election. I've been saying this for a couple of months now. Alberta is back, baby. And you know what? I want us to stay that way. We believe in holding all our governments to account, but the proof is in the pudding. And as far as we can see, the UCP is head and shoulders above where we believe that an NDP, Rachel Notley-led government would be at this time. We do believe that overall Premier Danielle Smith is doing a really good job at putting Alberta at the forefront and making us the economic engine of this country. And we believe this is a really critical election. Corporate tax rates have been lowered. There's affordability has been, payments have been issued to neutralize the just inflation. That's what we call it, not just inflation, but just inflation impacts that have been shaking our nation, and cost of food and fuel at the pump and everything like that. So we believe that this UCP government is showing that they're transforming healthcare and making real changes. Like there's some pretty significant changes that have happened. Healthcare, I think the pandemic really exposed how broken of a system it is, and layers of bureaucracy within AHS. And Premier Smith has gone in and she swept the board, replaced it with the one administrator, and they've made, red alerts on ambulances are down 60%. ER wait times are down 10%. Surgery backlog is going down all the time. MRIs and CT scans are becoming more readily available. These are huge accomplishments in what was an incredibly inefficient healthcare system. And I think she's also showing that the UCP does care about more boots on the ground and about our frontline workers, and that they're listening to them and not just the big wig union big bosses. And we just really think that this government needs 4 more years, and we will be there to hold them to account. And certainly a lot of other groups like ours will be as well. But we think that this is the government that's going to be, record paying down our debt and investing in Albertans at the same time in healthcare and education and critical infrastructure projects. So you got to get out. There's advanced voting. There's so many opportunities. And so I'm asking everybody, you got to get out and vote, and you got to take 2 people with you.
What about reconciliation as well with our Indigenous communities? How vital is that moving forward?
I think it's absolutely critical. And it was interesting. Dale Swampy from the National Coalition of Chiefs, he penned a really great op-ed last week talking about how just transition, and for the viewers, just transition, now called the Sustainable Jobs Plan, but that's Premier Trudeau's plans to essentially what it is. It's worse than his late father's national energy program of 40 years ago. Essentially what this will do is it will decimate our energy industry. It's talking about transitioning our oil and gas workers out from the energy industry into green jobs, whatever that means. So I think we're getting all a little tired of this rhetoric, condemning our best in the world Alberta energy, which we are leading in carbon capture, utilization, and storage, in working right within our own industry right here to achieve low emissions.
As president of Alberta Proud, do you feel that Albertans' voices are being heard in other parts of Canada, more specifically Ottawa?
I was just out at the CSFN conference in Ottawa last week, and the rally cries when he talks. He's an Alberta boy for sure, but he's standing up for common sense. He's standing up for conservative values, and he's standing up for our energy industry. And I think the alliance that would exist between him and Premier Smith is just vital for this country, to make us proud of our best in the world energy, and to make us proud of being Canadian, and bring us to the forefront at supplying our global allies with conflict-free LNG. I think that is so key. So I think we're not seeing it, certainly at the political level. Certainly we're not seeing it from the Liberals. We're not seeing an understanding or a support for Alberta that's been going on for decades. But while we're not seeing it at that, I think at the grassroots level, I think when you go out in the streets and you talk to people in Ottawa, and you talk to people in Montreal, and you talk to people across the country, I think there is that support.
Up next, we prepare you for the summer travel season and show you where you should be road tripping to. Here's a hint. There are 4 World Heritage Sites located in southern Alberta. Keep it right here. Well, with spring and summer just around the corner comes the opportunity for road tripping. There's a lot to see and do here in southern Alberta. For instance, the Rockies, the Badlands, the Coulees. In fact, Alberta is home to 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and 4 of them are a day trip from Lethbridge. To talk more about travel in southern Alberta is Aaron Crane, Chief Executive Officer of Lethbridge Tourism. Have a look. Aaron, maybe start off by talking a bit more about these miles and miles of trails in Lethbridge, not to mention the World Heritage Sites. I, for one, didn't even realize we were that close to so many until I started doing some research. So
we have so many little hidden gems here in our community. And we hear that again and again from travelers that come that, they're like, oh, we had no idea. Oh, we had no idea. And this is the opportunity for us. We have so much. We just need to get the word out about them. So the River Valley and all of the nature and adventure things that we offer, they're a huge draw for everyone in Alberta, everyone in Canada, and even beyond. So things like our trails, the biking network that we have is amazing. You had mentioned the hub for the 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And I don't know if everyone is aware, but Alberta has 6 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and 4 of them are within driving distance of Lethbridge.
Okay.
Huge.
So what are they, Aaron?
Oh, easy. Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump. Amazing if you haven't been. And again, we hear this over and over again, especially from residents that, oh, I think the last time I was there was in the 5th grade when I went with my school class, right? If you haven't been to these places, go, because they change over time and they're so unique and so special. The other is Riding on Stone Provincial Park. Became a UNESCO World Heritage Site a few years ago.
Amazing. It's gorgeous for anyone who hasn't been there.
Oh, yeah. And, I will say that they are pretty full all summer long. So if you're a resident and you want to go and explore, do it in those shoulder seasons. You know, you're going to have way less traffic, and they are very appreciative of, you know, spreading out kind of that year-round destination. And same, Waterton National Park. It is the peace park between the United States and Canada. And one of the things that makes Alberta very special and is a big attractor, especially for those international markets, is Dinosaur Provincial Park. And many people, you know, they always think of Drumheller, but the provincial park actually starts down near the Brooks area and then runs all the way up the province. So we get a lot of people exploring, again, because they can get some really good experiences in kind of that less busy atmosphere.
And there's a rich Indigenous culture here too, isn't there?
There is, and that is becoming more and more popular, not only because we see the opportunities and the ability to tell great stories, and our Indigenous partners are the best storytellers that there are. We're actually working with some partners with the Reconciliation Committee here in Lethbridge on an Indigenous filmmaker series to learn more about those stories and have them tell them themselves, which is really exciting. But for the international travelers and for those who come, you know, from around, you know, Canada, and especially those urban people that we get coming in, you know, these are things that they don't quite understand, and we need to tell them about, and we need to educate them because it is so important to everything we do.
So how would you recommend that small businesses in our city tap into that tourism opportunity?
You know, the best thing to do is to get in touch. We have been doing a lot of advertising lately about, you know, fantastic organizations that are hosting these events. We highlighted the curling club locally because it's their work that actually brought in the Tim Hortons Briar. We didn't do it. The city of Lethbridge didn't do it. It took a local organizing committee, passion and time and, you know, dedication that actually brought that in and made it the success that it was. And we need more in our community to think about doing that. If you sit on a provincial board or a national board, could we host your conference here? You know, are you involved in a sporting organization? Could we look at hosting a provincial or a national tournament here? And we're here to help.
Coming up after the break, we hear from an expert about how vital it is to limit kids' screen time. That's next.